Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to do a character portrait that's a little different. This is not a character I ever played, and is not a character I created. It is not a character I even just had a thought experiment about, which I guess could fall into the category of created. I think I may have just repeated myself. But it's a character that was originally played by a fellow gamer. His name was Tom, and Tom played this character back in first edition. I believe the entire career that I'm aware of this character was in first edition. I don't believe that Tom ever ported Malanthor / Melinda over into second edition at a later date. But this was the campaign that loosely became known as the Demigods Incorporated because we became very, very powerful. And I retired my character to Can when he was 26th level and part owner of a space station. Yeah, first edition can be weird. And he started out playing the character as a male wizard named Malanthor. And Malanthor, in many ways, was a bit of a reflection of Tom himself. Tom could have certain blind spots. And when it came to Malanthor's blind spots, they tended to be the collateral aspects of the spells he cast. So there was the spell in the book, all the lines and the stats and everything. Then there was this spell that Tom thought he was casting, which wasn't necessarily the same thing as the spell in the book. So he had a preconceived idea of what this spell did, and sometimes that did not click with what the spell actually did. And we were in a particular adventure. It was an Aztec-themed game, module, I think. I know it was a published module. I think I still own a copy of it, but I did not own a copy of it at the time. And our characters were hired by the local king to go rescue his son, the prince, who had been kidnapped by, I believe it was an evil priest of some variety. So we are in the process of attempting to do this. And the area that we were exploring was this essentially ruined ancient city. So it was in really bad shape. Vine-covered, Indiana Jones, very strong vibe to this adventure. And our main sneaky guy, which was Chuck's elf. Yes, that was the name. His character had a name, but he was just Chuck's elf. Well, he was Chuck's elf. Could have been Chuck's monk, whose character also had a name, but we always just called him Chuck's monk. Either way, one of them, our main sneaky guy, had climbed up a ruined wall to get the ability to look down upon the enemy, trying to get them caught in a crossfire situation. So it might have been the Chuck's elf who had a range attack and a bow. Monks really didn't have ranged attacks. Functional range attacks back in first edition. They were all into the smacking people with their feet and hands. And he's up there spying on the things down there. And for some reason, Tom, again, not particularly paying attention to what was going on around him, decided to take out the enemies at the base that were just like mooks. So he decides on a fireball. And the fireball would take them out pretty consistently. So that wasn't necessarily a bad move. The problem is, back in first edition, that fireballs had conformed to the area they hit. They had a volume. So it wasn't just 30 feet in diameter. It was X cubic feet that could fill up entire corridors 200 feet long, and you could do all kinds of weird things with fireballs because they were volumetric, as opposed to just a static magical sphere effect. They also possessed kinetic force. So Chuck's character, whether it was the monk or the elf, is at the top of this wall. Tom fires this. It was the elf because he didn't have any ability to check his fall. That was it. And the whole wall collapses. with the character on top, who's now tumbling through the air amongst blocks of limestone or whatever. So he did survive. The bad guys didn't. But it was an example. Oh, I didn't think that was going to happen because you had a preconception of what the spell did as opposed to what the spell actually did. Um, Later in the same adventure, we finally get to the priest who's got the prince, and kind of the classic. I've got the prince, and I'm gonna kind of got him in a headlock and a magic dagger or something, and saying, don't come forward, or I'm going to kill this, you know, uh, kill the prince. And I'm not really sure what Tom's intent was. In fact, if you ask him now, he may not remember. I haven't talked to Tom in years. He cast a cone of cold. Cone shape? The magical version of a shotgun blast? At the priest holding the prince in a headlock? We explained to the king that the evil priest had used cold magic to kill his son. It was really quite tragic. We didn't get paid much, I don't believe, but we did gain the body home, so that got us something. And the people didn't believe in resurrection, I don't believe, so that son was gone. And the adventure was a failure, so we did not get the experience points dump that we could have otherwise. But these are examples of things that Malanthor did on a regular basis. Now, he was occasionally clever enough to use some of the classic exploits from first edition D&D, for example, the classic, you find a bunch of enemies standing on stone, you cast stone to mud, whoop, they sink, you then cast either Dispel Magic or mud to stone, and now they're captured. That was a tactic that we used on more than one occasion, particularly useful against giants, because now they're not giant anymore, and they are not mobile anymore, and it's a massive penalty to their combat because they're stuck in mud up to their knees or thighs or waist, depending on what size giant they were. And it made the lives of the meat shield, which I was playing a ranger, much more successful at that particular time in our careers. And it was during the adventuring with my character Takan, because I believe the adventure I played with the prince might have actually been a different character I played, but we often ported characters from campaign stories under different GMs. I know that I played Takan under 4 or 5 different GMs over the course of his career. And eventually we found one of the classic D&D cursed items, which was the helm of the belt of opposite gender. So you put this thing on, and boom, I would turn into a woman, and that's what happened to Malanthor. He turned into a woman. Now, here's the interesting thing that I've always kind of found fascinating. Tom just went with it. He changed the character's name to Melinda, and just went on right on playing the character, like nothing had changed. Eventually, met a nice guy. The character got married, and they retired together. Now, what could have been a subplot getting Malanthor turned back into a masculine gender wasn't ever played out. He never took that path. So even though Malanthor / Melinda was an unintentional chaos mage in many ways, Tom still played the character interestingly. And I always respected that about him. The fact that he didn't necessarily take it in the direction that a lot of other people would have taken. I gotta tell you, I would have taken it in that direction. I would have found a way to break the curse and go back to my original gender. Because that's just the way I would. I played like 1 or 2 female characters in my entire career. I just prefer playing male characters. identify with them more easily. And let's face it, most of us are playing characters that we identify with on some level. So Malanthor / Melinda was an interesting character, an unintentional chaos mage a good deal of the time, often clever, sometimes very unwise, and playing with Tom could often be interesting in and of itself. It was never boring. Malanthor / Melinda was never dull, and I thoroughly enjoyed having the character in the campaign when I ran adventures, and I used to enjoy, for the most part, playing with Tom. And anybody who's been a friend of yours since you're in first grade is going to have some complications and complexities to your relationship, but I always enjoyed our gaming together for the most part, and that character was memorable. And I would like to hear other people tell me about characters that other people played that went against type, that didn't follow the path that you thought they were going to, either because you were the GM or you were just a fellow gamer, and you figured they were going to do X, Y, Z, and they took a left turn and went to Albuquerque. So let's talk about the characters that didn't walk the most common path.